Vasily Arkhipov was a senior officer in the Soviet Navy who played a pivotal role in averting nuclear disaster during the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962. At the height of this tense standoff, as U.S. ships patrolled off the coast of Cuba, they began dropping depth charges on the Soviet submarine B-59, where Arkhipov served as the flotilla chief of staff and executive officer. The submarine's captain and political officer, convinced that war had erupted and believing they were under attack, were ready to launch a nuclear torpedo in retaliation, a move that could have triggered an all-out nuclear war. However, launching the torpedo required the unanimous consent of the submarine's 3 senior officers. Arkhipov alone refused to authorize the strike, thereby preventing the use of nuclear weapons and likely saving millions of lives. Reflecting on the gravity of the situation, Arthur M. Schlesinger Jr., an advisor to the Kennedy administration, later remarked, "This was not only the most dangerous moment of the Cold War, it was the most dangerous moment in human history." This is History with Magnus. But before we begin, please do the subscribe thing. It really helps out the channel a lot and blah, blah, blah. The Cuban Missile Crisis of October 1962 was a tense 13-day standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union that brought the world perilously close to nuclear war. The crisis erupted when U.S. spy planes discovered Soviet nuclear missiles stationed in Cuba, a mere 90 miles from the American mainland. In response, President John F. Kennedy imposed a naval blockade around Cuba to halt further Soviet shipments of military equipment. The situation reached its most dangerous moment on October 27, 1962, a day later dubbed Black Saturday. On this day, a group of 11 U.S. Navy destroyers and the aircraft carrier USS Randolph detected the Soviet nuclear-armed submarine near Cuban waters. Having lost contact with Moscow for days, the B-59's crew was cut off from communication with the outside world. Although they had initially picked up U.S. civilian radio broadcasts, the submarine was now too deep to monitor any further signals, focused on evading its American hunters.
That's why the situation was getting harder, and we couldn't charge our batteries anymore.
The commander of the American fleet was called by the president himself.
This is the president speaking.
Mr. President?
Is there any way you can force that sub to the surface without damaging it or yourself?
I can bring it up, Mr. President, but whether it's damaged or not is up to the sub.
The U.S. Navy began dropping signaling depth charges, intending to force the submarine to surface. Unaware that the submarine they were chasing carried nuclear weapons, they dropped depth charges that exploded dangerously close to their target. Inside the B-59, the crew was left in a state of confusion, unsure if war had already broken out. The submarine's captain, Valentin Savitsky, believed that conflict might have already started and prepared to launch a T-5 nuclear torpedo. Unlike other Soviet submarines armed with nuclear weapons, where only the captain and the political officer needed to authorize a nuclear launch, the B-59 required the consent of all 3 senior officers on board. Under the mounting pressure, Captain Valentin Savitsky, political officer Ivan Maslenikov, and executive officer Vasily Arkhipov began to argue. 2 of them, fearing an attack, pushed for launching their nuclear-tipped torpedo, a weapon capable of destroying not just one ship, but the entire fleet hunting them. The argument grew intense, with Arkhipov standing alone in opposing the launch. Just a year earlier, Arkhipov had been involved in the K-19 submarine incident, where a catastrophic failure in the reactor's cooling system threatened a nuclear meltdown in the North Atlantic. Although not directly involved in the repairs, Arkhipov played a crucial role in keeping the crew calm and supporting the command through that crisis. His steady leadership helped prevent panic and maintain order, demonstrating the composure and decisiveness he now needed once more. According to author Edward Wilson, Arkhipov's reputation from that harrowing experience gave weight to his voice in the debate over launching the torpedo.
We have orders to defend ourselves.
You may be captain of this ship, but I am commander of this fleet, and you need my permission.
Two of us have agreed. Do I have your permission?
No. You need all three of us.
Despite the chaos, Arkhipov managed to persuade Captain Savitsky to surface and await further orders from Moscow.
Vasily
Arkhipov was our commander of the fleet. He was a submariner and a close friend of mine. He stood out for being cool-headed. He was in control. He was a real submariner.
When the submarine finally emerged, it found itself surrounded by U.S. warships. After tense communication with one of the American destroyers, B-59 received orders from the Soviet fleet to set a course back to the Soviet Union. Arkipov's calm reasoning and firm stance had averted a nuclear war if the nuclear torpedo had been fired, preventing a catastrophe that would have changed the course of history. Upon their return to Russia, the crew members of B-59 were met with harsh criticism from their superiors. One admiral bluntly told them, "It would have been better if you'd gone down with your ship."
He knew that it was madness to fire a nuclear torpedo.
Place the special weapon in the initial position and restore protection.
And especially that he lived through that and saw it. He didn't hesitate to say no.
It wasn't until 2002 that the full story emerged, and the Russians admitted what had happened. In an interview, retired Commander Vadim Pavlovich Orlov revealed for the first time that the submarines had been armed with nuclear torpedoes, and that it was Arkhipov's decision alone that had prevented them from being launched. When Robert McNamara, U.S. Secretary of Defense during the Cuban Missile Crisis, learned of this revelation, he reportedly fell off his chair in shock. Arkhipov remained in the Soviet Navy, steadily rising through the ranks, and eventually became head of the Kirov Naval Academy. He attained the rank of Vice Admiral before retiring in 1988. In recognition of his life-saving decision aboard B-59, Arkhipov was posthumously awarded the first Future of Life Award in 2017. This honor, presented by the Future of Life Institute, celebrates extraordinary acts undertaken at great personal risk, often without immediate reward, to protect the future of humanity.
I want to say, and this is very important, at the end, we lucked out. It was luck that prevented nuclear war. We came that close to nuclear war at the end. Rational individuals. Kennedy was rational. Khrushchev was rational. Castro was rational. Rational individuals came that close to total destruction of their societies. And that danger exists today.
Thomas S. Blanton, then director of the U.S. National Security Archive, underscored Arkhipov's profound impact by calling him the man who saved the world. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on all notifications so you never miss a new video, and be sure to explore my other videos right here on